Hello, welcome to the Manor Podcast. It's episode 13 of the 25-26 season. It is the final podcast of the season. We've been relegated. It's very sad. We haven't done a podcast since I guess we're previewing Derby and Wrexham, full of hope and belief.
First pod relegation.
Yeah, it's true. We've been going since 2019. This is the first relegation we've suffered. It's myself, James, we've got John, and we have Jack. No Connor, sadly, today. Is that the second in a row Connor's missed? I think it is.
Yeah, dock his
Connor,
wages.
If you listen back, you are a disgrace. John, how are you doing? Are you all right?
I thought you were going to tell me off as well.
Have you been keeping up with Spygate? Do you think they spied on us?
Is that picture of the guy stood next to the tree with the phone, is that real? Or
it looks like the guy. It looks like him.
Do you know what,
Let's
though?
say yes.
It made me think back to when the Leeds United won, and I swear Bielsa and maybe other managers sort of talked about how in like Argentina and other places, this is like really common practice to do stuff like this. And then the Southampton manager's Argentinian, I believe. So
that makes it all right. Just sit on a bucket
doesn't make
and
it
tell
all right,
people
but I think it's like
off.
I think it's almost like a sort of cock up by thinking something's normal to do might cost them playoff final place, but that seems crazy.
It does, doesn't it?
I'm very disappointed that the Southampton manager didn't do a full Bielsa and have a PowerPoint ready to go, because that's what made the Leeds one. I think this one's just becoming a rather noisy sideshow to the playoffs, isn't it?
But the Middlesbrough managers had to go like, yeah, got a plan to keep players like working for the next like 2 weeks, just on the off chance. Whereas they're all like, what do you mean we can't just like go and get pissed on a pitch?
Aren't they taking bets again for Middlesbrough to go up?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? It would be absolutely bananas to me if they if Southampton got properly screwed.
It feels like there could be a lot of legal manoeuvring over this whole summer, depending which way it goes.
Yeah, I hope they spied on us and it didn't work and we beat them at the Kassam earlier in the season. That's what I hope happened. How are you guys generally feeling? Like, how did you feel, Jack, during the kind of finale of the season, and then how are you feeling now about it all? We'll get on to some of that kind of finale in the wrap up of the games, but
I think in the last pod I had an ounce of positivity that we might just about do enough to take it to the final day. Obviously, we didn't, because we'll go on to talk about it, but we turned in two very poor performances back to back. And then the relegation was a bit weird, to be relegated just before you actually play yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I was at the stream of the York City Rochdale game, so my phone was on airplane mode, so I didn't actually know we'd been relegated until I was amongst 4,000 York fans celebrating being promoted. But kind of got over it quite quickly, to be honest. I think if we're all honest with each other, I think most of the fan base is like this. We just weren't quite good enough this season, and I think it's going to be seen as a very frustrating relegation because, and everyone's talking about the Indonesia tour, etc., and you can go over and over it, but it feels like a possibly avoidable one with 2 or 3 better club decisions over the season. But the table doesn't lie.
Was that the moment we got relegated when Rowett was pictured on a flying lion, John? John, how are you feeling about the whole thing?
Well, I wasn't going to counter what Jack was saying. I think he's absolutely right that there isn't a recognition we weren't quite good enough. I think I still feel frustrated, not in an angry way, in an accepting way, that even some of the sort of decisions we probably made over the season that weren't great, it felt like it could have nearly got there. Not just moments in games where if we turn them into a win, but it felt like we sort of, like you put it in your blog piece, like the team sort of seemed to come together a lot more in the last 15 games.
Yeah.
The squad felt like it was, I keep saying to a lot of people, like, yeah, we were kind of, the squad's like League One plus. Not quite there, but it felt like this season we had progressed, even though, as we'll talk on later, the stats don't necessarily tell you that story. I think I was just frustrated that, we just didn't seem to be able to find a way to dial it up a little bit more, to kind of probably just about sneak it. And we'll talk a lot about the margins and how other teams have turned it on, but I'm still just feeling like we could have nicked it. And I think that's frustrating, because I'm not really looking forward to League One. I don't quite get this whole sort of, it's going to be great, we're going to free-flowing football, we'll all be entertained. I've enjoyed the Championship, so
it has been.
Back there straight away.
I do think that was the general thing, wasn't it? That we've really enjoyed the last couple of years, and it has put us on the map to an extent again. Like the amount of times I used to get people just saying, "Oh, you're an Oxford fan. Are you in? Where are you? Conference or what?"
Yeah.
And you'd be like, "Fuck off!" Like Championship. Some of the it's weird because, and yes, thanks for mentioning. We do blogs now. Everyone, listeners, you can now read what we think as well as listen. I'm sure we get like 4 people that read them, but that's fine. Latest blog is by Jack on the retained list, which we'll also talk about soon. But the stats, they basically put us where we should be, because we're 23rd in the league from big chances missed, 24. We're right at the bottom for accurate passes, right at the bottom below Sheff Wednesday for average possession, right at the bottom for the amount of corners we had. If you just go through a whole bunch of stats, we're down there in pretty much everything. The only thing that was a bit of a surprise was that our XG for the season was that little bit higher than where we were last year. I think there was 5 or 6 teams below us. But the whole thing's around margins, and 14 out of our 20 defeats were by 1 goal. That was widely mentioned. Managing to turn a few of those defeats into draws. Who knows? Like, we might have been in a better place, but I do think the thing you mentioned there as well about the final few weeks, a more settled starting lineup, it felt like we had an opportunity. And if it wasn't for what was the record of Blackburn and West Brom after we beat them, Jack? Wasn't it 1 loss in 16 games between them, or just something
like that? And it just ridiculous, really. But equally, they'd have looked to us and seen us lose 2 in 14 or whatever it was, and thought that's ridiculous. So this is a little bit like the conversations we're having about, if Kieran Brown didn't fell the Charlton man, if Mark Harris scored. At the time, I was very much like, that's why we're going down. Actually, now I'm like, you could dissect all 46 games and say, what if?
So lots of those 1-0s where you could say, we weren't soundly beaten. We weren't that close to putting a glove on that team to change it either.
That Wrexham game was a great example of that, wasn't it? Or the Derby game. Both were great examples of a standard 1-0 defeat for Oxford United this year.
And I get that we've not got necessarily the strongest squad. We're down at the bottom. A counter-attacking style is always probably where you're going to end up. But I think another of my frustrations was, under Rowett, I suppose the squad wasn't really there. Bloomfield a bit more. I just found myself eternally frustrated that when we had ultimately a pretty good first 11, or a good enough first 11, with the athleticism midfield problem sorted with Cognac and McDonnell in the team, wide players, Mills and Miles Harris, that were performing. Donnelly, all right, maybe he wasn't as sort of ultimate as we thought he was, but we had a team that should have been able to retain the ball better and increase that style of play. And we just seem to fall back into the style of limited ball possession retention. And I know it's difficult when you're down at the bottom and your best chance is probably a counter-attacking style, but that was a frustration, that not that we just changed the style of play overnight and became some sort of footballing team, but it did seem to be an inability to even change the way we were looking to do it. And that's a sort of, I don't know quite where the fault on that lies, but it was something that bugged me perennially in the last 15 games for sure.
I do think Donnelly didn't quite. There were some moments, but didn't quite step up as we hoped. And then Pert Harris didn't. I know he scored against Wednesday, but his kind of finale to the season was quite frustrating because we'd seen some great moments from him. I think Derby away was particularly frustrating for him, wasn't it? He had a great chance after being put through, and then Cognac had one as well, didn't he? Which was just where he shot instead of passed to Mr. Wu on his left hand side. That I do think as well with the attack, we did rely on a front four when we had that settled 11. The front four, the average age was 22. Do you know what I mean? For like a championship side looking to stay in the division, you're hoping for, you're relying on, I don't know, that it just clicks and works rather than experience and people that have been there before as well. So it was like, it was a lot to ask, and it was.
It's not that uncommon though to have it. The average age does seem to be falling quite a bit, but
yeah.
So I take your point. I think as well it just stifled so-called better players that we brought in, like Jim Wu. I sort of come back to the amount of times when he did start. Occasionally, when he got a second on the ball, looked useful.
It looks great in a floral kit, though.
But then, just didn't have enough time to even show what he could do, because it's very, very hard to play in the team like we were. So many different challenges, but I think that underlying sort of ability to sort of make something happen which wasn't there.
Yeah. One other stat to pull out is that our XG from season to season went up from 0.99 to 1.27, but our fail to score percentage in matches went from 26% to 41%. So whilst our XG went up, our ability to actually score in games went massively down. Like significant, that's a huge drop.
Clean sheets must have dropped as well.
Yes. Yeah, it went from 28% to 17%. Yeah, so some of the underlying numbers just didn't really work. It looked like we were a bit more dangerous going forward, but not clinical. And then, but yeah, we don't need to dwell too much on that. One thing that we can be positive about is we concluded that I didn't see the final form table, but when you kind of select the time where our form kicked in and you include the Wednesday game, I think we were something like top 8, top 9 or something like that under Bloomfield. So you've got to think that that's where some of that frustration sits, and Bloomfield deserves like all the support from the fans for me going into next season. There was a few people calling, when you get the wasn't at the game callers, get rid of them all, too slow, slovenly, all that stuff was the there was a few phoners. Like you always sense there's a bit of frustration. Jerome has to just take it and be like, "Great, cool, thanks." Everyone else is going, "Oh my god."
There is generally, probably in life, I think it's social media's fault, a lot of situations are catastrophized far more dramatically than they ever were, because the number of people have been like, "Oh, we need to start from top to bottom with the squad, and he's not good enough. He's not good enough." It's like, well, yes, we got relegated, but we were hardly an absolute basket case. We've gone down by 4 points in the end. We were in with a shout till the last 4 games. Some of these players got us out of League One. Some have played in League One or above for the majority of their career. We're not walking around with a squad of League Two and Conference players as much as some people seem to want to. I think some people just like being angry at things. And I'm sure that if we don't sign someone by the 1st of June, or if we sell Mills, everyone will moan that it's for too small a fee, even though we'll never ever know. And I'm going to try. I won't do it, but I'm going to try this year to avoid as much pre-season social media as possible, but I'm sure I'll get sucked in.
Yeah. Before we get on to the squad side of things, a bit of news to go through, and then we'll talk about retain list and what we've got to look forward to in League One. We'll go to John for that bit. There's some changes around the board which included the appointment of 2 new directors and a new chair. And I saw some comments on a few WhatsApp groups I was in. Well, I never know how excited to get about this stuff or how much attention to pay for it, but people were saying, oh, that Bogdanovic guy, yes, he was involved in football, but he's just a random scout with not much experience of the English game. Why is this a good thing? But it's ultimately that these are people that were involved with Eric Fahir before at previous clubs, and he probably wants people he trusts and close to him. And Ferguson ultimately was living in where? Malaysia or something anyway? It's not really too different, but we're a long way away from Kelvin Thomas, aren't we?
That's another example of like catastrophizing a situation that, he's just been a scout. Like when there are very few chairmen in the country who are like ex-football players or have been involved in football that much. These people are generally businessmen or friends of businessmen. And I think Rudy Laxman has been with Tahir on the Inter Milan board. Like he's got good credentials. Yeah. Like I don't care he hasn't played 25 games in the conference in England. Like how much when your owner isn't your chairman because he's the money man and leaves people to run it day to day, I don't think you can argue too much about the makeup of the board because ultimately it's that far attached from what we as fans want out of the season, which is on the pitch stuff. It could, I don't think the chairman, as long as Tahir is still putting the money in and keeping the club afloat, and we see from our accounts every year that he's putting a lot of money in and he's covering a lot of debts. If he wants to put his men in leading the board, whilst, by the way, still having some people who've been around the club for quite a long time, like this isn't a full board change, this is a couple of people brought in. So I think it's to see how it goes.
Yeah, and you don't know what the backstory is to Grant Ferguson, whether it's a positive or a negative, or he may just simply be doing other things. So I think it's it's like anything. It's a sort of you can play it right by being proactive and sort of present. But I agree with everything Jack said. It's chairman of a football club is not what it's perhaps used to be.
Yeah. See, Tiger's name was still mentioned on that group, so maybe if we need to get some early updates on transfer rumours.
In fact, he wasn't removed from the board from that Instagram fiasco. That's a bigger story, really.
That's what I mean.
I forgot about that.
How could you forget about that? It did work. There were definitely some signings from that list, weren't there? When Pert Harris was on there, wasn't he?
That was
Donnelly.
900% genuine.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, who needs a spy when one of your board members just puts your transfer targets on Instagram?
Was there any other news before we get into the squad stuff?
We got relegated.
Yeah. I don't think there was.
There was a lot of quite over-the-top leaving videos with some players.
Oh my God!
As if
I tell
they've
you
been
what,
with us for 10 years.
Didn't Plaheta do one?
Yeah.
Like, are you on?
I like he was fun. I like Shemi Plaheta. He gave us a few moments, didn't he? What would he have done in League One? I don't know.
I just had his leg broken by a fullback who just kicked him up in the air.
I do. Isn't it MLS or back to Poland that's what you were saying, Jack, in your
seems to be the
blog post.
The rumours, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get on to the squad then. So 10 players have gone out the door. Plaheta was one of the, bigger, more noticeable characters. We always knew Pert Harris was there on a short-term deal. Who else has gone that was a bit more significant? Where's Romani? Has he still got a contract?
He's got 2 years left yet.
Oh my God.
That smacks of loan move to
Indonesia.
Well, yeah, or back to the Dutch Premier or somewhere.
Who are the others? That Stuart Findlay might win the title tonight.
It's basically the majority of everyone who's loaned out, wasn't it? Bradshaw, Dale, Finlay, Goodwin, Negri.
Goodwin, that was it. Goodwin was the one I pinged about, because that's come round quickly from that nearly 500,000 invested. That was to be. It didn't feel as bad because we got promoted, didn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of put an ease on that. If we hadn't have got promoted, everyone would have been calling that back out, going like.
That makes me sad though, because when we got promoted to the Championship, we all did a very good job of being like, right, we just need to forget about the amount of money we spend on players, because we're in the Championship now. Spending £1 million, it doesn't work out. That's the norm. Now we're back in League One. It's like, 400k. Like, can we afford it? It's quite a lot.
Dembele was $1 million, wasn't he, as well? But again, did help to keep us in the league for another year.
Still under contract, I believe.
Yeah. So Kioso, Greg Lee, Romani, Sibley's still under contract as well.
Yeah.
For another one more year,
hopefully. But this is
not hopefully.
No, as in only 1 year.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, isn't it? You look at what is still in the building. As much as Bloomfield said, there won't be a major overhaul, you can probably list 5, 6, 7, 8 players who've got a contract who haven't featured much at all this year. Why are they suddenly going to feature next year? And really, they need to be, finding new clubs. Because otherwise, at the minute, we've got too many players for the squad rules, so you have to make room before anything else, surely. Or you end up with loads out on loan again, which is just a waste of resource.
I did like Terravest, but I guess where he's played most of his career, it's League One's probably not where he wants to go. I imagine he can still find a club at a reasonable level.
Yeah, and he might just want to go back to Holland, done a couple of seasons in England, tried it out.
How old is he? 20s still?
Late 20s, I think.
Okay. What do we think about... Yeah, I guess it's just all speculation from everything we can possibly say from here on in. But the thing that's obvious is that we've got a really good core 11 if we were to put an 11 out. But as soon as you start to... If you lose Curry, if you lose Mills, you lose Spencer, it suddenly looks very different very, very quickly. I kind of ruled out BDK emotionally and physically. I don't know. I kind of forgot he even existed because I just accepted he was going to go as soon as he was kind of signed off for the season. But where are you at, John?
It just feels like we're basically back at the start of every single season when we go, what do we need to sign? 2 fullbacks, two wingers.
You need another left back to replace Josh Raffles. 2
wingers, or maybe 4 wingers, and a number 10 and a striker. But I agree, we've got a solid core. I mean, if you keep the 3 centre halves, which is probably realistic, maybe somebody looks at Brown. Randomly got to decide what Ruben Ruskin is, whether he's a left back that can work in our system.
Yeah,
Greg Lee is a random one because he'd be probably more than useful.
Yeah,
in League One.
I think he revitalises his career at Oxford, maybe. But
then the centre of midfield, McDonald, Brannigan. You only need to add 1 or 2 in central midfield. Solve the bloody number 10 challenge.
McDonald now looks like a perfect signing, doesn't he, for me?
Yeah, he'll be running the show, not creatively, but
he looks so good for Mansfield in that same league.
And
him, if we did keep BDK even for up to January, and we had McDonald, Brannigan, and BDK in the centre of the pitch, that would be.
But we're not going to keep BDK for.
Nah.
I mean, we're in a very strong
But his injury, though, does make you think, what do clubs do? Because aren't they going to want to see... I think it's a big gamble, that, for teams. But I don't know, maybe teams are willing to do it.
I think it boils down to the... Well, maybe not so much the wide players, but... Because, I mean, I know we're... Especially you, James, I know a Maku fan, but...
No,
I think he'll rip League One to pieces.
He finished the season I think he really needed to as well. He had a couple of good performances towards the end, and I was really happy that he had. I'm sure he was as well, but he needed that because he looked. Where was it? It was Charlton at home, wasn't it, Jack? When we were in the stand, he looked void of confidence. He didn't want the ball. He was literally making an effort to stand behind players, so he wasn't an option. Is how it looked.
You got Tyler Goodrum coming back as well, who, for him, in that sort of ironic...
This probably works for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it works quite well for him. Prelec's an interesting one. I'd very happily have him in League One and see what happens, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel like
I think he'll stay. I do, unless he goes to another Europe. I suppose it would be another European.
Yeah, it just feels like that's the natural thing for it to happen to.
But we triggered it so late last year that it would be a bit weird. I don't know. Maybe it's so he's an asset that we could technically sell, but I'd really like to see us keep him in a promotion pushing League One side. I'm still convinced there's a real player in there, but yeah. And then what about Mills? What do we think the likelihood of him staying will be? Is he the biggest asset that a championship team's going to go for?
Probably, ignoring the Keersmacher, because to your point, I've seen a lot of people saying about BDK, we get 5 million for him. Well, we only paid 2-ish, and he's played 26 games in the championship. His stats are quite good from those 26 games, but they're not fee doubling territory. So I think Mills is the one, but it's probably a big choice for him this summer if he does get the opportunity to leave. If it's someone like a Preston,
it'll be frickin' Bristol City, is what it'll be.
It probably, yeah. But if his move that he takes, if he takes one, he has to go and play 40 games. Otherwise, he risks stalling his career after just kind of getting it back on track. So, it may be I live in a fantasy world, but I'd like to think he'd give us at least till January, play another 20 games. But
I think his stock is as high as it's ever been, isn't it, right now? So it's one of those where do you take the... It's like similar, hasn't the Lincoln coach rejected the approach from Bristol City? Or am I dreaming that?
No, seemingly there's his, whatever the word is, his trigger was met and the initial noise was that he isn't interested, but
wow,
that may well go on and on.
Yeah, I guess so. I think because when Manning went, they tripled his wages type thing. Is at least that's what was shared. So you'd imagine it's a similar thing, isn't it? Like if Mills has a contract dangled at him that triples his wages, he has to take it. Like he's got. Yeah. It might be that he has a bad start in League One and he gets to January and he's actually on the bench for games or something. Like it's plausible. So it's like
his agent. Yeah. I'm sure his dad will be saying, "We've got to get you out of there post haste," and yeah, probably not looking at a newly promoted into the championship bottom of the thing, but like you say, any sort of like.
It reminds me of Callum O'Dowd. You know, when Callum O'Dowd was playing at his best, and he got the championship move. That's what Mills makes me. I imagine he could settle like O'Dowd did in the league.
I guess the thing for Mills is as well that he's so aware that you can suddenly have a big injury out of nowhere. Obviously, we signed him back after a year out injured. So, yeah, ultimately, I guess if his stock's high, and to your point, James, he gets a nice contract plonked in front of him and it ticks the box for us fee-wise, I can't see why he would turn down a move.
Yeah.
Sadly.
So it is good that we can build with the some teams will have got relegated where you're back to the wasn't at the game columns going, get them all out, like get them, and a lot of people would agree with it. Whereas it feels like you said it earlier nicely, John, that kind of League 1+1 type thing. It feels like we've got the makings of a really good starting 11 already if we were to keep a majority and only lose one or two and then add to that.
It doesn't feel like, and famous last words, that we'll be staring down a whole new squad at the start of the season sort of feel like pretty much have for the last 3 or 4 years. Because it, like you say, there's the spine, bar a striker, is there and is unlikely to go anywhere. Does anyone look at Hellick?
Brown and Hellick? Well, I don't think Brown and Hellick go.
I think Hellick always seems to get his move back to the Championship for a team that then gets relegated. So he went like Barnsley to Huddersfield. Huddersfield's
in his 30s now, though, isn't he?
Yeah, so it's a risk. It's a risk unless someone wants the choice experience Championship centre back, but he probably wants to play football. So
yeah,
I think some of these players probably give it till January and see where we're at.
Yeah, Long's an interesting one because in an ideal world, you'd want to say, look, shirt's yours in League One as a centre half. I mean, he's a great to have those three. It's not a bad problem to have. I mean, you probably do need to have 4 in the building, or at least someone to play. Spencer's the interesting one, and particularly interesting one for me because I think there is a hell of a player there, and I don't think difficult team to play in. Got his injuries, never quite got going. But quite who comes in for him and I assume would have to pay a reasonable fee is interesting. Whereas he was one I would be quite happy for us to dig our heels in because he would be very, very good in League One.
Yeah. He's only 22. He's only 22.
Yeah, so
I think as an asset as well, if you do get him through another season in League One, I think his stock continues to rise. And he was quite on and off, I thought, last year. Had some great spells, had a poor spell, but then really came back into it.
Yeah, I'm saying the underlying potential of what you could see was there. I'm not for a minute saying, he was great last season. You could just see him being very, very good in League One and just never being troubled at all the time. And it just takes a challenge out of having to find I think we seem to struggle to find right backs.
Yeah. Curry feels like he could definitely be playing Championship football, but I feel more hopeful that I think it's more likely Curry stays than Spencer stays, but I don't really know what I'm basing that off. I just think he could do with another season at the level. Volks is interesting. Like Volks, I guess, just carries on being utility player. You probably don't want him to be starting much next season.
No,
but he's obviously been there and done it.
He probably fills the experienced pro good to have around the changing room role, doesn't he? Which, depending who else goes out of the door, you probably need that for a bit of continuity.
Well, you can't. You'll need a fourth centre mid, perhaps with a bit of creativity, but you couldn't end up in a situation probably easier in League One. But if McDonald got injured, Brannigan Volks as the two, we're back to that again. And so,
yeah. And what about when the top end of the pitch? So we talked like Dembele. Surely isn't staying around. Surely.
I can't, that's Rowett and Bloomfield who barely used him.
He's still in his 20s. No one is paying £1 million.
It's funny because a few people have been saying, when he was last in League One at Peterborough, he was, unplayable. He got his move to Bournemouth for quite a lot of money. But we've just never really seen it, have we? He's scored a couple of goals, obviously important one. Sheffield United, was it last year?
Sunderland and Sheffield United.
Yeah. But to have been out, and the same for Greg Lee in this sense, no doubt they can do it at League One level and have done it at League One level, but to not play for us for, in Lee's case, half a season, Dembele's a bit less, but barely any minutes last year, why would they suddenly become at the forefront of Bloomfield's mind? Why would they want to be at the forefront of Bloomfield's mind unless they're...
And he will fundamentally want to bring in, classic cliched, his own players.
Yeah.
And he's got to manage...
just where does he go? I just don't know who takes Dembele. He's not going back to the Championship. Where does he go? nowhere in England. I don't know. Maybe. That's the thing with some of the players, that the more dead weight type things. So I think he's the most significant one of those, isn't he? Because you look at like Romani, I just think you write off anyway, and you just forget about it because it's just bizarre, the whole thing.
Jim Wu we haven't talked about. I mean, you
yeah,
assume that
I'd love him to have a go.
Yeah, but it just seems like it'll sort of a move will be found for him to go back to a foreign league, and
I'm not sure. I think he'll play.
To such an odd signing to kind of push the boat out, spend a reasonable fee on this player that had really good stats in the Korean league, and then barely use him.
Such high. I guess like it was such a high chance that we were getting relegated.
Yeah.
To go out in January, late in January, and get him in, and then get relegated, and then be like, "Oh,
the case to sign him for like months before." This won't have been like, "Oh, he's available, let's get him in." They wouldn't have.
Yeah,
selling Oxford to a player like him would have not been a. "Oh, no. You're available. Do you want to come?"
I'm convinced he will be there next season.
Convinced.
I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
Are you more and more convinced than you were about our team that's just finished the season being the best ever Oxford team you've ever seen?
Hey, I was hoping to rate that to favourite moments of the season.
Yeah. Mark Harris, Jack.
Sell.
27 years old.
He's going to be the player that splits the fan base, isn't he? Because
I would 100%
seen him do it in League One. We've seen him not do it in the Championship, but we've seen him still score 3 or 4 very decent goals and show that he can finish. But if he had a slow start to a League One season, I think you'd be into like full-on scapegoat mode with him. And maybe he's kind of got a sniff of that with how some fans were with him last season. He might fancy just a new... Been with us 3 seasons now, so he might fancy a move. But I would
John,
keep him personally.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just saying sell to be controversial. I think if you think about what you need in the squad, every team at the start of every season says we're going to have to go out and sign a striker. Probably sounds ridiculously cliche. For us, given the base of the squad we've got, we haven't got a absolute first name on the team sheet striker. So we will absolutely need to go out there and spend big, whatever, on a striker, be that the best of the best in League One or someone from the Championship or alike, to be that main striker, assuming that Bloomfield plays similar sort of formation, and then Prelec and Harris are striker 2, striker 3. I'm more than happy to have Harris as striker 2, striker 3. I'm definitely not happy to have him as striker 1. It's
interesting though, isn't it? Because I'm playing it through in my head now. If you're a Plymouth fan and you sign Mark Harris in the summer and you go, blimey, last time he was in League One he got 15 goals or whatever
20,
it was.
19 or something.
You probably get quite excited by it, but we're sat with him being our headline striker, really, because Prelec, who knows, and then that's it.
What's funny is I was literally about to say if Plymouth signed him, and you said it.
It's that classic, isn't it? When you've got a player in the building who's coming off a poorer period of form, you kind of...
It's like Luton. Can you imagine him going into Luton as well? Like I just I can see it. I can see if we didn't keep him, he would go to Luton or something and he would score 25 goals. But the problem we had with Harris, in League One, he was streaky as hell, wasn't he? So he would still go 11 goals without scoring and then suddenly go on a bit of a run. And he did that in the season, even when he got the 19 or 20 goals or whatever it was.
But if you think back to the seasons when we were in League One, the teams that went up, they always ended up having like 4 or 5 strikers. And we probably had a reasonable budgets in League One. But we will come down into League One with, imagine, one of the bigger budgets again, and should be going for it as one of the favourites. So for me, I think whether Harris wants to stay is a different dynamic to this discussion. But it sort of feels to me like we shouldn't even be sort of thinking about.
Yeah.
He should just be like, he's one of 4 strikers we will want to have. And the point is that if he goes a bit streaky, then great, drop him to the pile. There's 3 other players. Whereas I think in the past in League One, we were a bit like, no, we've got to wait for our 1 or 2 strikers to come good.
I do agree with you about Harris and Prelec plus 1 more, but that plus 1 more is the interesting thing. Like,
Well, the plus 1 more for me has to be someone with a bit of a proven history. It can't be a 20-year-old loanee.
We never seem to sign the proven history striker.
But we're in a position to do that now because we're coming down with quite a sell to most. Hopefully, cash in the bank. Well, we will have cash, assuming we sell we're going to sell quite a few players.
That'd be big, wouldn't it, to invest in a... When was the last time we had... I suppose Harris was sort of that player, but what was the last, like, proper centre-forward that we had that scored? I don't know. Roof? Bino? Roof was a left winger. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing Harris a bit of a disservice there because he still did. Anyone that gets around 20 goals, you've got to say fair enough. Yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting. I could just see I can see like someone from the Norwegian second division that scored 32 goals being the one. We do seem a bit quirky with our recruitment at times, and it's gone a bit more far afield.
That's the critique being aimed at the new chairman, isn't it? That we're just going to sign some of his agency from Asia.
Yeah.
But as we said, we've got too many players already, so we've got to get a few out to make room.
Wonder if Leo Snowden, he's been injured all season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I wonder if he starts to see. It's obviously it's extremely hypothetical, but he seemed like he was on the up to the point where he wouldn't be far away from squads, and he was scoring some unbelievable goals. And
it's a great level for that sort of player to actually stand a chance to break in.
Did he come back at all? End of the season?
I think he is fit. I'm not sure if he played, but him and Louis Griffiths are both, or by pre-season, will be fit again, and they're both thought of very highly in the setup. So if they don't get, say, a conference loan, you'd hope that that's because they're going to be pushing for a first-team squad place.
Yeah.
Finally, we're assuming that Cumming doesn't leave or get picked off.
I was going to mention that earlier. I could see it happening, but
I don't think it will happen. I think
I wouldn't be massively shocked. Would you be shocked? He wouldn't go to not be a number 1, would he? He's got Cheesecake to think about. Or maybe that is the reason why he would.
But who would take him as a number 1 in the Championship? He's not going to go to another League One club, is he? Surely.
I don't know enough about their keepers.
No, I think we're fine, and I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, he's been great. It's funny, isn't it, with Cumming? How when we signed him fully, we were like, he's never going to be the starting keeper. And we signed Ingham. We never thought Cumming was going to be the one that would see us into the Championship, and then he's had a brilliant couple of years, really. Should we do moments of the season before we talk a bit about next year? Any other reflections? What really stands out? Don't mention Bristol City away. Bristol City away was. I still think that was our best performance for me, where I just was like, we are, which obviously led to some comments which I cannot delete, which are immortalised. What about others?
Leicester away for the...
Oh, yeah.
Just for the kind of, I hate the term, but the scenes and the goal and just everything. I think going and winning at Leicester, yes, obviously they came down as well and they're an absolute mess of a club, but given how their recent history has been, and that I think that's probably, I was trying to go back through earlier, probably our kind of, in quotes, biggest win of the last few years. Kind of go into their place and winning. Obviously, we beat a few big clubs at home: Sunderland, Sheffield United, Southampton over the couple
biggest
of years.
Biggest away result.
But
they weren't in full free fall completely, were they? They were like,
no, that only happened when they appointed Gary Rowett.
Oh yeah, well done, Gaz, on your double relegation.
I enjoyed the two draws against Coventry and Leicester. That was early in the season, and it just had a good vibe to it. And we were sort of in the still happy Gary Rowett ways, and almost felt like he sort of had found a way to sort of make the team play, and then it sort of ground out a bit. But I enjoyed those two games.
I think it was that those two were the games that led into the Bristol game. And then,
well, yeah, they were two.
And so you were like, oh, you've just drawn with Coventry and Leicester. And then Bristol City had won every single match. And we had not won a game going into that game at Ashton Gate. I think it made me feel like, oh my God, something's happening. Look at Krastev and BDK mixing it up in the middle of the pitch.
Krastev, I've forgotten about him. Christ.
Well, he looked unbelievable that day. And there was interplay. It was quick. Plaheta was all over them, if you remember. And he also scored that ridiculous goal. But Prelec got a great goal that day. So just everything felt like, oh, look at all these new signings clicking. There's no way that we're going to have issues. I can't.
Just my moment of the season was seeing Tom Bradshaw actually score for Oxford whilst I was on comms at Mansfield away in pre-season. That's where the season peaked.
That 1-0 win.
1-0 after a minute.
I really enjoyed as a non-game moment. I think the emergence of Stan Mills for those last 15 games I really enjoyed, because I think countless times I'd sort of been like, over the time with him, I've been like, yeah, he's a young player, like there's moments there. But there are other times I was like, I'm not sure I quite get it. Why is he not sort of able to be more direct, sort of play more instinctively? And then it just suddenly clicked, and all of a sudden he became a player where you like, just get him the ball. He's absolutely rapid. Looks like he'll make defenders quake in his boots, so to speak. And you sort of feel like he's he gets his crossing to sort of slightly higher standards. You've got a hell of a player there.
Seems like a great character as well, doesn't he? Like level. To
come and to raise your standard after like an ACL injury is a hell of a thing. I enjoyed BDK. Like, I think he wasn't always like, there were some games where he was clearly just knackered / heart was going, but he was it was enjoyable to have a player in the team that was clearly of the next echelon, a player we hadn't seen for a while. And I'll still maintain that assist for Harris's goal against Leicester was absolutely incredible. So I enjoyed, I'm gutted that one got injured and two that we probably won't see a player of his potential ilk for quite a while.
Yeah.
I just remembered another non-on the pitch moment. When Konak decided to shoot against Derby and put it in the stand, the man behind me, who'd been very reserved for the entire game, probably in his mid to late 70s, just got to his feet and shouted, "You utter cockwomble," at the top of his voice. And I thought, fair enough.
That moment did break my heart. I just had to. The
vibe of those two games was where it sank in.
Yeah.
And I also think we haven't given enough credits to other teams. Actually, like, if you think, I'm not going to give Blackburn any credit, that's just annoying. But Portsmouth, I think,
definitely Pompey.
But like, too many other teams, did what they needed to do.
It was quite similar to last year, wasn't it? Lots of teams at the bottom picked up at once, but we started further back in the pack and couldn't.
I still think that Blackburn game away at Millwall, when there was an extremely dodgy red card that got rescinded, an extremely dodgy penalty that wasn't given to Millwall, that was a big. And then they obviously went on to win at the Den. I tried to block that out of my head, but ultimately, it's done. Doesn't matter. If we didn't talk about the fact we didn't lose to Coventry. I know we mentioned the draws. John said before the Coventry and Leicester ones, but we didn't lose to Coventry. We had the battling draw away. We had that really good 0-0 away at Borough, where we arguably had the better chances. At 0-0, we drew with them 1-1 at home. It just felt like we were more competitive, as we've said. Compared to last season, we were more competitive in more games. Even though
you get like no prizes for this, but you did feel like there was multiple times where like opposition fans were like, "Yeah, there's no way you look like you're 19."
Yeah.
I mean, which is pathetic because it doesn't mean anything. But that was enjoyable to sort of feel like, we weren't a kind of team that was just sort of cannon fodder and.
Yeah. What about if we turn it? What are some of the worst moments? Things that really made you
conceding
question.
So many goals on the counter attack.
Oh, the one at Stoke got me
because that was the second time in that match that they'd done that.
Oh, that really hurt me. That goal. Yeah. Did we concede many late? The whole game away right at the start of the season. I was in the ground for that when McBurney scored, and that was painful. I don't know why we're doing this. It's like therapy.
What were didn't we all have to give a kind of wide pre-season prediction? I'm only saying this because I know what mine was and I got it right.
No, what did you say?
That Gary Rowett would not be manager by the end of the season.
Let me see if I wrote anything down.
I can remember my season prediction, which was we'd go big in January in terms of transfers, and we'd improve on our result, finish like 17th. So I get half a point.
Yeah,
John. Go big in January.
So John said we'll finish 17th, and Hellick would be our player of the season. Jack said 21st BDK. Connor said 19th Jamie Cumming, and I said 20th Jack Curry. No,
far too hopeful.
Yeah, I mean you can't predict relegation. I just especially us. I think if all my predictions came true, we were coming top by 17 points.
I think the decline of Gary Rowett was quite painful at the time, because I think I'd sort of, in my mind, reluctantly come round to his sort of approach to it, and then he'd
given up in the media, hadn't he? It's like, there's nothing else I can do. There's not enough whiteboards to sort this out. I was like, Jesus, Gary.
But I was haunted for like many times during last season about this comment he made about, and I think it's his fault or it's the recruitment team's fault, where he talked about a lack of athleticism in the midfield. And if you think about how many times Volks and Brannigan, it was just painful. And that's a sort of failure of transfers. And it's like, well, if you knew that, you must have known that at the start of the season. So that goes down as big errors in the recruitment. But that's a moment that haunts me. I don't know why it's just one line, but it was like, I remember thinking all the time, we just don't have the legs. Why have we allowed ourselves to get into this position to then not be overrun, concede stupid goals on the counter, etc.
And I do think, when did Bloomfield take over? Was it
early January, wasn't it? Because Rowett went just before Christmas, and it took 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm
Bristol
trying to think.
City at home, wasn't it?
Bristol
0-0.
City. Yeah, and then we drew with QPR. Then we beat Leicester, and that was when Bloomfield gave it big. Obviously, as you would to the
and then
away
we didn't
fans.
win again for a while.
Yeah, 6 without a win after that. I do. So what do you guys think about Bloomfield? I mentioned it earlier, but he's carried a lot of the. I find I'm really happy that he's there, and I think he needs a shot. But when KR used to give it the custodian of the club type stuff, some of the cheesy bits. Bloomfield, I can. Something grinds on me slightly with the interviews and stuff like that, but I think actually he's built a good team culture. The players did play for him for the most part, as we saw out the season.
That's a really good point. I mean, I don't think I'm like wowed. I'm not. I think he's the right fit for a League One campaign. Knows that level. it'd be daft to do anything sort of different. And like you say, the players clearly playing for him. There was a couple of times where he sort of clearly made mistakes, and I guess, to be fair, he owned up to them, and that's all what we all say as fans we want managers to do. I don't think he is the sort of complete article yet, but I think he'll be more than sufficient in League One. So.
What do you reckon, Jack?
Again, I think he's one that needs a good start, because I don't think there's enough of the fan base on his side to not come under pressure quite early, if you see what I mean. I'm quite happy. I saw a lot in what he tried to do with what he had that gives me hope for next season. I just think when you start going through the teams that are in the league next season, there are a lot of teams. You can say it's every year in League One, but on paper, obviously it's not played on paper, but on paper there are a lot of teams who will fancy it, and I think a good start is vital. And if we've just been talking about the potential churn of players again, you want them in early. It's all like John said, we're literally saying the same things we said definitely in League One. You want to get your players in early and have a good start. Otherwise, you might be too far behind.
It is interesting going back into that league, because when you're in the league and you used to look at Barnsley and you used to look at Blackpool and you used to look at, I used to be like, oh, we're in the same league as Barnsley and Blackpool, and and now I look at it going like, fucking Barnsley, you got to beat. But it's funny what a couple of years away does to you.
It's getting into the grinds with like Peterborough and those ones.
They had a bad season as well, didn't they?
I'm not speaking that from like we're bigger or whatever type of saying. It's just, it feels like we lived a lot of these games multiple times. What do you think we'll still go to Indonesia or to the Far East?
I think they mentioned Spain.
Yeah.
That seems sensible for many different reasons.
No Lions in Spain.
No, the quality of the league, as Jack said, there's a lot of teams that will fancy a good go, and there's a lot of teams that didn't do well last year that tend to normally do well at that level. Leyton Orient massively dropped off this season, didn't they? And then Wellens got very interesting interviews. Did you hear any of that? Just out of interest.
Yeah, the one he gave where he was
really
like,
funny.
Basically said they didn't deserve to go around clapping people or something.
Yeah, it's like you just said they'd wasted a year of his life, amongst other things.
He does seem like a bit of a knob, but I did like his comment. Fair enough.
Part of me was like, I hear what you're saying. You are the manager, though. If players aren't playing for you and not performing, you're still the manager, even if like it's not to your take. I was just like, what you said, John. I just thought he sounded like a knob, but I quite enjoyed it. I liked the honesty, and that's where with Bloomfield, that's the only thing that gets me. Sometimes he sounds so well media trained to say all the right things all the time. I'm just like, give me some human thing, but I don't know.
Give me a burger in the Lion's Den line. Come on, whatever KR said.
Yeah, it's an interesting league. Bromley are in it, so we're always having that thing for a bit around. Will we be playing Spurs next year or Bromley? It is Bromley.
Andy Woodman derby.
Yeah, where is Bromley? London way?
Yeah,
South London.
I don't want Stevenage to go up into the Championship, but I equally kind of don't want them to be in League One next season either, just for the horror of that experience.
I haven't been there for a few years. I'd love It's easy from the north. I just can't ever not picture Graham Wesley and drinks breaks whenever I think of Stevenage. Yeah. Any other games or teams that we're playing people are looking forward to, or?
Well, we might have KR derby if Salford do their thing in the playoffs. Leading
Aren't they playing
Notts County?
When is it? Who's tonight? Stockport and
Stevenage in this league.
What's the score?
Stockport won. So they're through.
All right, so they
play Bolton or Bradford.
Wow. Edit.
Yeah.
Damn it!
Wow.
They are in League One.
Stockport must have been away from the Championship, like same we were 25 years. They must be very similar to that.
I think they went down the same year as us.
Yeah, they will be round about maybe the year after us. But that's interesting.
But obviously they dropped to Conference North, so...
Oh shit, Hearts. Both Hearts and Celtic won. Oh, as it. Celtic scored in the 99th minute. Come on.
Dodgy
I bet
penalty.
Hearts fans were absolutely devastated with that. Oh well. Goes
This
to
is
the
when
last day.
we forget recording.
Sorry, yeah. Now we're just going through fixtures. Yeah, I think we can probably...
There are a lot of teams that, again, on paper, you get, like Huddersfield, obviously they've parted company with Manning for his personal circumstances, but they'll expect to go well. And the annoying thing is Sheff Wednesday will be starting on 0 points and have a new owner, so will probably spend quite a lot of cash.
Leicester financially, what's the situation?
They're screwed by all accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a stability tread water, but yeah,
Let's
as we
play
know,
Reading.
like Wycombe, Reading, Barnsley, Wigan, they're all
Luton.
but they've all got it in the locker.
Luton, yeah, that's...
MK Dons will spend a
There's
lot.
lots of good... Do you know what?
Loaded.
There's lots of good games. There'll be lots of good fixtures. It's not going to be easy, but let's hope we get a real good go at it. We didn't mention Swindon failing. Like they went to the last day, didn't it, at the county ground against Chesterfield, and what was the score in the end? They lose.
They lost. Yeah, didn't they win one out of their last 8 or something?
Yeah, what a shame.
Haha.
I need to get that Holloway rant back on repeat. Anyway, yeah, we should say we should have probably done this at the top of the pod, but it is worth giving the Radio Oxford guys a big shout out for everything they do with the comms and the whole team there, and obviously you guys played a part in some of that coverage this year as well. But it is second to none, isn't it? Like when it's always I think we mention this every year, but when you hear some of the other local commentaries and coverage from other teams, sometimes at higher levels than where we play, it helps you appreciate it even more. But yeah, you wouldn't. Our life is so revolved around Oxford United, and they bring all of that to life, don't they, for us? So,
well, and even the last couple of weeks, we've had the 25 years since we left the Manor little episode with Nick Harris, and
that was. Do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. That was ace.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Very good.
And the Milk Cup.
Yeah, all the Milk Cup stuff was
on YouTube. Well. Yeah, that video was like. Do you know what? I think on the last pod we made a few quirky remarks, because we're obviously of the generation where we're kind of born around that time or just after, and so it never quite resonates the same as the people. But I felt watching that it actually really, really helped bed some of it in a little bit more. But yeah, it was really cool watching that. I really enjoyed it. Jerome told some of his own stories, didn't he, about what that was like going with his family. Yeah, it was really good to hear. And that's why Oxford is such a big part of so many people's lives. That's played a big role in it. Cool. We'll probably do. So I was going to say we won't pod for ages, but we'll probably, as soon as we start signing Algerian strikers, we'll be back to talk about it in no time. It is the World Cup as well, so there's still football going on. I actually hate this time. I'm sure every football fan says it, but when it gets this time of year and it's like the weekend's coming, oh, brilliant, sweet football, and then when it's not there, I don't know what to do.
I'm the opposite. I'm quite relaxed during the off season because it's just intense, like the football every single Saturday, and
you are
kind of relaxed about it. You can other things go on.
What I do like is that fixture release day is Thursday the 25th of June, which is slap bang in the middle of the World Cup. So we'll all be watching Panama versus Ghana at 11 o'clock at night whilst working out whether we're going to Bromley away.
That's what I need. I need like Panama versus Ghana.
I do love, yeah. The World Cup's not far away, is it? When does it actually start?
12th of June or something.
Yeah, it's not far. I'm at Silverstone for some of the knockout games. I'm hoping. I think it's not falling well for one of the England ones. That I think one of the England games is like a Sunday at like 4 a.m. or something. If we make
they're all
it
at good times.
I don't.
Anyway,
know.
this isn't really pod. This is just us chatting.
Yeah, but we're helping the listeners plan their football schedule over the off season. Anyway, yeah, thanks for everyone that listens to the pod and has listened and got involved with things throughout the year. As I said, we'll probably go on.
Thank you to the guy away at Derby, who I didn't actually ask him his name, but he came over in the pub and was very favourable about our pod. So it's quite nice when people recognise you, which sounds really weird, but yeah, everyone who interacts, it's always appreciated, because otherwise it's just 3-4 blokes chatting to each other.
Yeah, a guy at Middlesbrough away as well, nice bloke. As we were walking out at the end, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, love the show. And I didn't have a clue who he was. But I should have, next time I'll find him and say thank you.
Just signed a scarf and moved on.
No, it's really nice that people enjoy listening to it. And as we've started doing a few more blogs and stuff, we'll probably keep that going into next year as well. I'm determined next season, with the predictions we do, I'm going to have a section on the website that records what we're saying. We'll try and make it a legitimate thing with the Manor Cup at the end of it. Just reverted back. It's because of League One.
The Vintage Cup, yeah.
Just had to revert back to Manor. Anyway, right. Thanks everyone, and we'll catch you soon. Have a lovely spring and summer.